Hi, welcome back to Daf Yomi iyun. In the last video, we asked a question on this whole topic of Onאה. We asked about what's the basis for this middle level of Onאה, that it exactly a sixth, that has its own status. Where does that come from? So I'd like to answer that question. In order to do so, I want to take a look at the Rosh. The Rosh, along with other Rishonim, deals with the question of how does it work practically by discrepancy. Let's say a seller sells over the fair market price less than a sixth. How does that work? We know the Gemara says that the buyer can't do anything in that case. He can't sue at all. But is there still a prohibition in that case for the seller? So the Rosh starts out by thinking that he says there is an isser. You could say that even though the buyer is not able to sue, there's still a prohibition of Onאה in that situation. Then the Rosh says, maybe not. Maybe there's no prohibition of Onאה at all if the discrepancy is less than a sixth. And he argues because if the buyer is mocha for that small amount, what does that mean? That means that when it comes to the valuation of something, there is an element of subjectivity. And so if the buyer is mochel, and obviously the buyer feels in that situation that, within a sixth, that's not a significant amount. And therefore, the way the Rosh says it is that's called derech mekach u'memchar. That's normal kind of way of buying and selling. So therefore, the Rosh suggests that maybe there's no Onאה in that case at all. However, he's not sure about it, and because he had this first possibility that maybe it is a problem. And for that reason, he says that practically speaking, you should be stringent. And the Ramban says clearly that it's still a problem, even less than a sixth. There's still a prohibition there. One could ask on the Rosh, on his first side, why does he say that possibly there's still a prohibition of Onאה at less than a sixth? What does he mean by that? If the fact is the buyer is mocha of that small amount, and that means that valuation is a bit subjective, and therefore, in this situation, seemingly I'm not cheating him. And therefore, why does the Rosh say that maybe it's still a problem, and the Ramban says for sure it's a problem? How do we understand that point of view? So I believe we could understand this if we broaden the definition of Onאה. So when you first think about Onאה, you think of basically a concept of gzela. You're cheating this person, you're charging him more than you should be, so essentially you're stealing from him. And in fact, the Gemara in Samach Aleph, for real, compares Onאה with gezel. Gemara there says, if the Torah only said Onאה, I would know gezel. The Gemara discusses why did the Torah have to write these different lavin, because they're essentially the same concept. So if you define Onאה strictly as basically an act of theft, well then our question stands, why would the Rosh say it's theft if in this case he's mochel? To him it's worth that amount. So why would that case be Onאה? But we could suggest that Onאה doesn't only mean kind of a theft. Rather, part of Onאה is the problem of the deception. That is, the fact itself that you're giving this person misinformation regarding what you understand the valuation of this item to be, that itself deems it Onאה. So, therefore, the Rosh says, it doesn't matter that he's mochel. The fact is that you're understanding the market value is that it's worth this much, and you're leading him to believe that it's worth that much, so that makes it Onאה. Now, if this is true, if Onאה is really about the deception of it, then why does the Rosh think that maybe it's fine at less than a sixth? The answer is that the Rosh is suggesting on the second side that once it's a case where this person is mochel, he waives his rights, he's waiving even the deception aspect. He waives even that, even if this person is giving me wrong information, I waive that. So the Rosh considers that maybe, therefore, there's no Onאה in this situation whatsoever. So to summarize, the Rishonim have a question about the practical halacha where the Onאה is less than a sixth. The Rosh has two tzadim about it, and we're explaining the Rosh's two tzadim as follows. The Rosh considers that maybe it's still a problem of Onאה, and the Ramban says it for sure is a problem of Onאה. Why? Because Onאה is not just about stealing, it's about the deception. So therefore it doesn't matter that he's mochel, you're still deceiving him about the value, so it is Onאה. Or maybe the Rosh says, since he's mochel even on the problem of the deception, and if he's mochel, then it's not really deception because he's mochel, and therefore it's not onah, perhaps. Practically, you have to be stringent, the Rosh says. With this new definition of onah, we can now read a Gemara on Samach Aleph. The Gemara on Samach Aleph says something that on the surface makes no sense at all. The Gemara deals with the question of, let the Torah just write that there is a prohibition of onah, that you can't cheat somebody in business, and then I would know that you can't steal from him. So why does the Torah have to separately write, thou shalt not steal? The Gemara there says these words. The Gemara says, no. If the Torah only wrote that you can't cheat someone in a business transaction, I would have said, that's worse than Gzela. Why? Because there he may never find out. Could be he'll never find out that he overcharged him, and he'll never be mochel. And therefore, in that sense, onah would be worse than Gzela. So even if the Torah said you can't cheat someone in business, I wouldn't have known that there's a prohibition to outright steal from him. So on the surface, how does that make sense? How could you say that overcharging somebody in a sale is worse than actually stealing from him? What does that mean? But according to what we said earlier, maybe we could understand it. Meaning that onah has a particular avla, there's a particular crime there of the deception. So the Gemara is suggesting that you can't infer gzela from onah because onah is about a different matter. It's about deception. It's about feeding someone misinformation. And therefore the Gemara says, if the Torah only said that there's a sin of onah, I wouldn't necessarily know the sin of gzela. So, as we'll discuss in the next video, I believe that if we focus on the Rosh's second side, his suggestion that where the onah is less than a sixth, it's not onah at all, it's completely permitted. According to that, there might be a way to answer the question we asked in the last video of where does this middle level of onah come from. I believe there's a way to answer that question according to the Rosh's second side. I'll see you in the next video.